Hey everyone, it's John here from NHL Hockey, back with another video, and today's video is going to be another 24-team playoff format. This one's going to be different than the last one I made, and I'm not going to actually do bracket predictions for this video. I do want to focus more on the alternatives for this video and give you guys the explanation, because I know some people are a little still confused on some formats. This format might be my favorite. When it comes to 24 teams and crunching it down and advancing, this might be my favorite. The only problem with this format that I'm going to show you guys is it does hold a decent amount of teams to a bye, which gives them an advantage, of course, but they might be cold, and I don't think the NHL wants to keep teams out of play for too long. I mean, in terms of the financial reasoning, in terms of the entertainment reasoning, so there's a couple different scenarios to obviously look at. This one is just my favorite in terms of just fair and in terms of advantage and in terms of teams getting the proper seeding. So I'm going to look at this scenario and you let me know what you think. So this is the format. And it's a little similar to, obviously, what we have already looked at. Chris Ostrander from Two in the Box, I already talked about. He made the article. I adjusted this format a decent amount. So you see initial matchups at every corner. So Vancouver, Chicago, Arizona, Minnesota, New York Rangers, Florida Panthers, and New York Islanders, Montreal Canadiens. So these are all the teams that were outside of the wild card. The wild cards would be the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators in the current standings on the west side, and the east side would be the Carolina Hurricanes and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the other four teams on each side would be the ones that are outside in the current standings right now. How I believe it to be fair, and this is where it gets really crazy, I think the NHL could consider, or at least should consider, single elimination games. We see it in other sports. I talked about it, and I do think, you know what, there was only about 12 games left. 12, 11, 10 games left in around there of hockey. Some only played 69 games, so 13 games left at the very max. And at the end of the day, most of those spots were already in a lock. I would say, obviously, for a team like Columbus, they were just ahead of the New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Florida Panthers. A team like Winnipeg was just ahead of Vancouver. Same with Nashville. Nashville was tied with Vancouver for points. So it was so tight. And you know what? For a team like Vancouver or a team like the New York Islanders, maybe this is a little unfair. But they were also battling. I think, if anything, it should be on the borderline of unfair for the teams that were battling for a wild card versus unfair for teams that were actually in a division spot. So when I look at the other 24-team format, teams like Pittsburgh, Toronto, Calgary, they have more of a risk of getting eliminated right off the bat. In this scenario, they have more of the structure, and they are already guaranteed a 7 or a best out of 7 game series. So what I'm thinking is, if you do single elimination games, again, they have to do it quick. I think ideally, obviously, if you had more time, you would do these initial rounds as best out of 3 and then best out of 5. But even with that, you would keep teams like Tampa, Toronto, Boston, St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado, all those teams in the division spots sitting too long. They would be in a bye. So single elimination games and then seeing a best out of 3, that's max only 4 games. Only 4 games that those teams would be sitting out for. That's not that long. Those 4 games can be done in a week. 100%. So sitting out for a week for those teams is not that bad. You see that, I mean, even in the regular playoffs, best out of 7, when a sweep goes down and another matchup goes to best out of 7, all 7 games, those other teams that were involved in a sweep are still sitting for 4 or 5 days at the very least. So when it comes down to Pittsburgh, Philly, Toronto, Tampa, those are the 2 and 3 spots that stay the same. And you know what? The other thing I was going to mention, and this is very interesting, is if the NHL, if they did something like this, a format like this, if they were to consider the top 2 teams in each division having a single game to determine who deserves the top spot. So like Boston and Tampa, there's a little bit of a gap there. But for Washington and Philly, they're so close. They are so close that Philly, it could have took 1 game and they would have bypassed Washington. So it would be interesting to see if maybe they pursued that. And while those initial games are happening in the bracket of this format specifically, or in any other format that's like this, that maybe the top 2 teams in each division battle it out in just like a quick game or best out of 3 series while that's happening to decide who gets the ultimate advantage. Because to me, especially for a matchup like Toronto-Tampa, if I'm Tampa, I would much rather play a team like the Islanders or Blue Jackets than the Leafs. Or for the Flyers, I would much rather play a team like the Rangers or Panthers over the Penguins. So that's something to consider. So I'm just going to show an example here of what the bracket. So at the top right, say it's Islanders versus Canadiens in a single game matchup, single elimination, and all it takes is one game. Montreal beats the Islanders. They advance and play a best out of 3 against Columbus. Whoever wins that best out of 3 would play the Boston Bruins. That Toronto-Tampa matchup is already solidified because at the end of the day, and we could all probably say the same thing, it seemed like it was going to be that matchup regardless. And for Philly-Pittsburgh, and that's why I suggest maybe Philly and Washington go in a matchup to determine who slots in that number 1 spot and who slots in that number 2 spot as a single matchup. So say Philly and Washington played each other in that single matchup while those initial matchups are going on, like Florida, New York Rangers, and then whoever wins that single game has to play the Carolina Hurricanes, gets that top spot. So say Philly beats Washington in that single game. Philly would then go right here where Washington is, and then Philly would play the winner of, obviously, whoever wins this matchup here would face Carolina. That would be a best of 3 matchup. So say New York Rangers win. So we'll slide New York Rangers over there. Rangers, Hurricanes. Say Hurricanes win. Hurricanes would slide over here. And if the Flyers won that game versus the Capitals to decide the division winner, they would play in that matchup. So that the bracket would still be the same. And the same on the other side. Say this matchup, the Vancouver Canucks beat the Chicago Blackhawks. The Vancouver Canucks advance to play the Winnipeg Jets. Whoever wins that matchup would play the St. Louis Blues. So again, this first one would be single elimination, which is crazy. And again, some fan bases might not like that because there can always be an upset in one single game. The Blackhawks could definitely win this game, and hello, we get see you later Vancouver Canucks, and the Blackhawks advance. We'll bring the Vancouver Canucks back there. So it's definitely interesting because the Blackhawks, at the end of the day, could upset and then end up playing the Winnipeg Jets, upset the Winnipeg Jets in a best out of 3 if their first to 2 wins, and then play the St. Louis Blues. So there's a lot of different aspects here. I just want to obviously explain the matchups here. The Rangers are playing the Panthers because the Montreal Canadiens have the worst record out of those teams battling. The New York Islanders have the best record, obviously outside of the 2 current standing wildcard teams in Columbus and Carolina. New York Islanders are the 3rd team after that. They'd play the worst team, and then these 2 teams right in the middle there. And same thing here. Vancouver Canucks are literally tied with Nashville. Nashville just has the advantage as a wildcard team. Vancouver Canucks play the worst points team, which is the Blackhawks, and then the Arizona Coyotes against the Minnesota Wild, the 2 middle teams. So again, whoever wins here plays the Predators in a best out of 3 matchup. So let me know what you think. I like this a lot. I honestly do. Again, if it's just single elimination games right off the bat, and then it goes into a best out of 3 right here to decide who plays each division winner, which, yeah, obviously in this case, the St. Louis Blues are the Central Division team. The Vegas Golden Knights are the best team in the Pacific. Washington Capitals current. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. I would be really intrigued if they would do that matchup. And obviously for the Central, that would be St. Louis Blues versus Colorado to decide who's the best team in the division. The Edmonton Oilers versus the Vegas Golden Knights, Washington versus Philly, and Tampa versus Boston. If they did that kind of matchup while these initial matchups are going on, again, those are just single games, and they go by very fast. You get that done in 2 days, then you could go right into these matchups, which are obviously best out of 3, so max 3 games. And yeah, all these division teams would have to not play for almost a week. Like I said, that could happen in best of the 7 game series regardless. So a week is not too bad. And if they have somewhat of a training camp, get the guys ready, I think it's the most fair. And I like this format a lot. So obviously I don't think this format's been talked about too much. It is technically 24 teams. Yes, these are only single elimination games, but it does decide it a lot quicker. And I think it makes it more fair for division teams that are in those 3rd spots, like Dallas, like Calgary, like Pittsburgh, like Toronto. It makes it a lot more fair in my opinion, and it keeps those matchups. I mean, how much fun would these 4 matchups be? Dallas versus Colorado, get the Battle of Alberta. I mean, a lot of people have complained about the 2014 format not getting the Battle of Alberta. In this scenario, we would get the Battle of Alberta based on current standings. We would get the matchup of Pennsylvania. We would get Pittsburgh and the Flyers, and we would get Toronto versus Tampa. Man, those are insane matchups. And I mean, at the end of the day, even matchups like St. Louis, Winnipeg, if we got that, a rematch of last year, Nashville versus Vegas, like one of these teams, Arizona or Minnesota, could upset. Again, Vancouver could even upset and go. Chicago could upset. Like, there's so many crazy possibilities. And for Montreal, imagine the hype around Habs fans if they could upset the Islanders in a 1-game single elimination game and then beat the Columbus Blue Jackets in a best of 3. There's so many possibilities here. I like it. And you know what? Some people might complain saying, oh, there's too much of a bye. I disagree. I don't think there's that much of a bye. This is my favorite 24-team format, and I hope they do it like this. So again, let me know what you think in the comment section. Please do subscribe if you are new to the channel. Smash that like button. There's a lot of formats to go by, and this is just one of a few. It'll be interesting if they go off current standings. There's been conversations that they would cut back everyone's points back to that 69 game point. I really don't like that. There's a lot of conversations to still be had. Yes, they're gaining steam on 24-team format. I do think, again, they could go 20-team, and I will make probably a video on the 20-team format. It honestly is very comparable to what I just showed. You literally just eliminate the bottom 4 in that scenario, which, so Arizona's out of that, Chicago's out of that, the New York Rangers are out of that, I believe, or it's the Florida Panthers out of that. It's one of those teams out of that. I think it's the Florida Panthers have less points than the Rangers, yeah, and then the Montreal Canadiens out. So a 20-team format is, you can kind of just base it off of this by taking away 4 teams. But no, it's really interesting, and yeah, just let me know what you think. I'm going to have more videos coming out. I'm going to try to start heating up and maybe developing 2 videos per day, getting 2 videos out for you guys. Welcome to the channel if you are new. This was John from NHL Hockey. It'll be really interesting to see what format they use and if hockey's going to come back at all. If it's safe to do so, I would love to see it back. Hope you guys have a good day. Peace out.